Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 13 of Journaling on a Budget Starting Over. Today we're going to make some designer tissue paper, and I chose some colors that are going to go along with our book. And so I'm going to show you what I've done, and then we'll work through the process kind of backwards actually. So here's the finished product. This is just tissue paper. Now I was out of white tissue paper except for these little cutoffs that I had. But you know, that's plenty big enough. A lot of times you're only going to use a little tiny piece, or you want a strip. So this is, you know, plenty big enough to go ahead and do this with. And so I made some orange and some pink, or pinkish. And let's see, do I have something white here? Not particularly. The pink one's kind of light. You can see it better there. But so we've got a pink one and a blue one. And I just kind of wanted you to be able to see how that, you know, how see-through they are. And a purple one. And then what I did was, because I was getting out the water to dye the paper, I thought, well, I was actually cleaning up. And I found this wad of paper on our table that my husband had put there, and it was from some shoes he had just bought. And this is what, when I opened it up, this is what it looks like. And it's a very soft, it's almost like a super thin soft newsprint paper. And I thought, well, I'm going to see, you know, if I can use that. Now this is really, really delicate. So it's something when you use it, it's going to be, you're going to glue it onto something. It's not going to be any kind of a base, because it's really, it's about as delicate as like your one layer of napkin. It's very delicate, but it's also just very cool. So I went ahead and while I was dyeing my strips, I dyed some of that. Now this is the last one I dyed, and it came off in a pretty good sized piece. They all came off in one piece. Now, the third one that I did, that was a fourth. The third one I did, I was doing really good, and then I brushed too hard with my brush and went over the same spot too many times and put a hole in it. This is actually the first one that I did, and you cannot try to take it off of the parchment paper until it's dry. And it was only a little bit dry, and I was going to try and peel it off so I could just kind of hang it over a rung, and you know, so it could dry better. Yeah, you can't do that. It has to be dry. It's so delicate. So that was the first one that I really made a mess out of. This one, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't quite dry, so I have a few rips and holes in it, but not too bad. So I'm just going to show you then how I do it. Is I painted on a piece of, I have a very large piece of parchment paper here. And so I just laid them on here and I painted them. And then the biggest thing is that you need to start in a corner. And now see, it's already kind of ripping here because it was already ripped there because of the paper was not in perfect shape to begin with. Now there, I just ripped it. I'm going to get it out from underneath. There, sorry about that jiggling. Okay. So you're just going to very carefully remove it from the parchment. Even though parchment is non-stick, it's not actually, I don't know how I want to say it. It is kind of sticking. And the biggest thing is watch your edges. So if you go underneath of it and then come out to push the edge away from the paper, that is the best way to remove something that's really delicate, especially if it's quite large. Because if you just try and rip it from the edge in, it wants to rip more. So we're just going to finish getting that off of there. And so now we have a yellow one. And this one I already started here. And then this is the tissue paper. Now, the tissue paper also will rip if you're not careful, but it removes much easier. And if you've got a spot right here, it's kind of wanting to stick. If you kind of go on an angle, a lot of times it comes off better. But now that I've already had a spot there that wanted to stick, I'm going to stick my finger underneath of that to get that little piece lifted off first. And then kind of pulling it more on an angle. until it comes off. Just like that. So now we've got our tissue paper, which is still much sturdier than that other paper, but I think that is just so awesome. So now I have this parchment paper with color on it. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've got this one here that is blue on one side and purple on the other. And I've got this one that was the orange and the pink. And I'm going to try and use them. Normally I reuse my parchments over and over, but because this is an acrylic paint, which is a water-based paint, I didn't want to stick something else on top of it that was all wet, you know, like another piece of my tissue paper, and paint on it, and then have the colors bleed together. So, but I really thought that they looked kind of cool, and because the parchment is wrinkling when it gets wet, that's what's leaving the kind of design on the paper. But I'm going to put those aside and keep them. So here's the design. See, it's kind of cool, and it also puts it on there. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over, because I'm going to do one more. Now I'm going to put it back under the, there we go. I'm going to do one more with green. So I just have a little like condiment cup, and I got them at a yard sale. So I just got a whole bag of them. I don't know what they had them for, but I'm going to fill it about half full with water. And that's enough to do both pieces of the shoe paper and the tissue paper. And then this is just Arteza. It's Arteza acrylic colors. And this is a nice paint. It has a lot of pigment in it, but you can just use your regular. I'm just going to put in kind of like a squirt, about like that. Kind of like did like a line across the cup is about how much I did on all of them. And then you just have to mix it up. You know, if you have something better than a little tiny stick to mix it, it will mix faster. But yeah, these are nice, very nice paints. I got them to do a demonstration quite a long time ago, and then I haven't really used them much because in the Build Your Stash series, I couldn't use anything we hadn't bought for that series. So there was a lot of things that I hadn't used, but I'm starting to use these, and I really do like them. But they're a heavier, kind of like, I'm going to say mid-grade acrylic paint, but your acrylic craft paints will work just as well. You might put a little bit more paint in it if it's not dark enough for you. But other than that, you know, I use my regular, just, you know, the kind that come in the little jar, the 2-ounce container from the craft store, Apple Barrel, or any of those from Walmart. And I use those a lot. And so they work just as well, except they don't have quite as much pigment in them, so you may have to put a little touch more paint. So there we go. We've got the water and the paint all mixed up. And I'm just gonna grab a paper towel. So then what I'm gonna do is just take a piece, which I had it laid out. There we go. So this is a piece of the shoe paper, because that's what we're going to call it. But it really is, it's just really neat. And you know, like, I really do like wrinkles and texture in my papers. I really like the way that it feels. I like working with it. But if you have papers that you, let's say you've dyed them and they wrinkled or whatever, and you don't like it, just go ahead and put a piece of parchment over it and iron it. You know, you don't have to live with it, if you know, with the wrinkles, if you don't like them, and you don't have to like them just because other people do. So we'll start with this one, and I just have a paintbrush from the Dollar Tree, and all you're going to do is just paint it on there. Now, what I did with all of the others, the yellow one sat for a while before I finished drying it, because I had a few other things I needed to do, but all the rest of them, because I wanted to do this video when I was done painting them, I just dried them with a hairdryer so that I could flip it over and do the next color. After I removed, oops, I just rubbed really hard across there, and now there's a great big hole right there. But that is what it is. I'm gonna push that back a little bit, but I'm not gonna mess with it much because it may start making the whole thing start ripping. So never know. I might have a project where I need to have a hole in the paper, and then that would be the perfect piece. So, but yes, I dried them with a hairdryer. And this one I'm going to set aside and just let it dry while we move on to the next step of our designer tissue paper. But I just kind of wanted to show you what they looked like, and I wanted to show you how to get them off of your parchment or whatever you put them on if they're a little bit sticky. And I just wanted to show you how I colored them and what I used to color them. But you can also color them with, you can put some food coloring in your water. That works great. You can tea dye them. You can coffee dye them. You can even do the watercolor technique where you color with watercolor markers, kids markers on the plastic that I've shown you before. You can do that with your tissue paper, and that looks really neat. You color on the plastic, spray some water on it, and kind of smush it around a little bit, and then you put your paper on there. So you can color it any way that is your preferable way to do it. So I'm going to turn this around so that I'm not reaching under the camera to do and we'll just do the piece of tissue paper while I have this out. And then if I have any of the water left over, then I just kind of paint it on the extra parchment, just because I don't want to waste it. And I'm not so sure what the parchment's going to do, so if I really like how the parchment is working on something, I'll have a little bit more of a colored area. So, and you can also use your sprays to do this, and you know, just anything that you can think of that's colorful, you can try it. And the biggest thing about doing your own products like this is you can try whatever you want. This is a scrap of tissue paper, and so, you know, it may turn out to be the coolest thing ever. I don't know. You know, we'll see what I do with it. But, you know, it's just one of those things where if you're just playing with your own products that you have sitting around, scraps or little bits or whatever, you can do whatever you want with it. And if it doesn't turn out and you really don't like it, sometimes you can change it. Or otherwise, if you have to get rid of it, I paid $1 for, I think, probably like 30 or 40 sheets of tissue paper. That is 6 inches off a huge sheet of tissue paper. So, you know, we're talking cents there if I don't like it and I decide I don't want to keep it. So there we go. Our green tissue paper, our green shoe paper. It's all painted, and I'm just going to set it aside. Okay, and then you can draw on your tissue paper. You can stamp on it. I like to stamp on them. And a lot of times I really do like to use my own stamps to do that. So I thought that I would use, I have some brown here. This is Brown Stays On. And these are some stamps that I have made. I lost my favorite little background stamp. I'll find it one of these days. But today I'm going to do some musical notes on the yellow. And they may or may not be going the right way. I did a bunch of them backwards, because you have to remember that a stamp is, you have to make it backwards so that when you flip it over to stamp it, it comes out the right way. And I always forget that. So, but I thought that I would go ahead and just put randomly all over the paper my musical stamps. And this is a little bit bumpy underneath. That's okay with me. I'm not really concerned with if I get a perfect impression or not. I like this one when I do it like this. I like the way that looks. So, but I am going to move it back just a little bit because I really don't want to. I was inking on my tissue paper. You don't really want to do that because see right here, if you can see that, there is a line right there where my stamp pad hit the paper. Now, it's hardly there, and it's not really a bad line or anything, but you don't want to get, especially, you know, it always gets me, it seems like I'm almost done and I'm loving whatever I'm doing, and then I do something to mess it up. So you should really put your ink on a different surface than what your, let's do that again on an angle. And I'm going to see if I can stamp off with this. See how much ink I have left on there. Ah, plenty. I'm going to try one right here because if it's light, that's okay with me. I'm not pressing real hard. I'm just more pressing like the whole area just to make sure that it makes contact because you don't want to squish your foam stamps. That is enough of those. Put a few of, and I'm going to set it that way because it just seems to make it easier to do that sometimes. And I'm going to put it outside the lines. Coloring outside the lines. No, it looks better inside the lines. I'm doing on here. Yes, much better. Looks correct that way. And maybe just stick one up here in the corner. And I think that's enough. I'm running out of ink enough that I don't want to do any more. And so now we have our base. And so you're just going to randomly just go in, stick them where you want them. Just kind of, you know, the biggest thing is a lot of times I so overthink it because this is supposed to be kind of background paper. It's just supposed to be random. So, you know, don't try and make it perfect. Don't try and, you know, your notes don't need to actually be a song. They're just there for looks. We got that one. And actually, I should have stamped that off a couple of times. Tip it upside down over here. And that's enough. It's running out of ink. And I did take piano lessons when I was little. And then I took piano lessons again. My girlfriend taught me when my mother was in dialysis. I would go to her house. And she taught me, but to tell you the honest to goodness truth, as far as the notes go, I've never been good at reading them or anything like that. So if you're looking at this and thinking she's putting that in the wrong place or whatever, yeah, it probably is. Because that just really was not, I always wanted to play the piano. My sister plays beautifully. That one I'm pretty sure is backwards. But, oh, you know what? I think if I do it this way, it won't be backwards. I don't know. I really don't know. Let's get it randomly on there. And you know, that one, that stamp, I think just got extra ink on my paper. And that's because my cardboard around it is too big. And so that's another thing that you want to keep your cardboard as close to your stamp as possible so that you don't get ink on the cardboard and then on whatever project you're working on. And I also think that if you leave them lay on the table instead of patting that way, I think you have less of a chance of getting it on the cardboard. I'm not sure, but to me it seems like I don't get it on the cardboard so much when I do it like that. So there we go. This one, let's stamp off the edge. Put one over here where it's really kind of messy. Don't want to leave that corner. So there, I think that that looks pretty good. I'm not necessarily looking at correctness. I'm just looking at, is it as full as I want it? And is it not too full? You have to be careful because sometimes you can overdo it and really make it too full. So there we go. Now there is our own handmade designer tissue paper. And I just think that it looks terrific. I love it. And I love the music notes. I think that that was just the perfect thing to do. That would look really pretty on a page with a bird. Let's just quick do one more. So let's do these puzzle pieces. Different sizes and different shapes. And I think I'm going to even take out this little dot one, maybe for a little extra background. And I have some purple stays on out, so let's do it. I'm going to do some on this piece of shoe paper. That sounds so funny. I like the way that sounds, shoe paper. I'm odd sometimes. Alrighty, so I'm going to move that back. I'm going to get these out of the way because they still have ink on them, so my other stamps were right over there. I want to make sure that I don't get that ink. There we go. See how this works. Okay, that wasn't the best. You see that corner and this bottom. Make sure that I press it in all the areas. That's better. It's a little dark. I think I like probably the stamping off parts better. Yeah, looks better when it's lighter. There we go. Skip that one. I'll do this little one. So, and you can use, your store-bought stamps. They don't have to be handmade stamps. But I'm going to have to grab that, so I'll be back in just a second. Okay, I am back. Sorry about that. I was waiting for a call to see they have a farmer's market in the next town up, which is like where we do all our shopping and everything because we live in a little tiny village. And I did a craft fair there. Well, actually, it was not a craft fair. It's a farmer's market. And then they also sell crafts and that type of thing. So, but they got me in on Tuesday and said that they would let me know if there was any openings on Fridays because they do it Tuesday and Friday half a day. But there's no openings on Friday, so that's their busy day, they said. But it was worth a shot, and I just wanted to make sure because if they had an opening, I definitely wanted to get in there. Alrighty, so these are taking up much more space. I don't think I need to put on as many as I've been putting on there. Let's see, let's get a small one with a top on it. Yeah, these are fun. I really like these, and they're very easy to make. It's just you use a hole punch and just cut the shape. And my family has always been very much into games and puzzles, so this is just right up my alley. And again, these are not necessarily stamping that great. This is the first time I've used some of them, and I'm surprised. It's even making a difference on these handmade stamps. It could also be the paper's not absorbing as fast. It could be the wrinkles. I'm pretty much putting it down and taking it up quickly. You should really put it down and press it like this. Another thing that I think may be part of the problem is these are on corrugated cardboard. So wherever the little holes are, especially like right here on the edge, there's no pressure on the stamp right there because there's nothing really there to push on. When I push on it, I'm pushing on the top portion of the corrugation, And so I stopped using corrugated cardboard and went to just regular cardboard after I had made some of these stamps, because a bunch of them don't stamp the best, and I think that that is part of the reason why. So I think that, well, this one is pretty much the same size as one that I've already done. And this is like the little one and the big one. So I'm going to, I think I had 3 sizes of each. I think I'm going to do a couple of the great big inside ones. And I'm just noticing I don't have any in these with the, it's easiest to make the dents versus making the outer parts. But I have made some, so I have cut papers that way before. So, well, seeing that one, I just didn't even leave it down there long enough. I didn't even let it get contact. That's better. But yeah, I'm definitely pretty sure that it's the corrugated cardboard that makes these not work as well. So I think what I need to do is I need to take them off. I can peel the corrugation off the back, keep that piece of cardboard, and then glue it to a nice flat piece of cardboard. I think that would be much better. And then because that's all so much the same, I'm going to go in and do some dots, and I think I'll just pull some dots just off of part of the stamp because I don't have huge areas. There we go. And I don't really want to go over what I've already stamped. I think that's, you know, sometimes if you go over top, now here I could probably do the whole thing. If you're going over top of your other stamp, what you've already stamped, sometimes that looks really cool. And sometimes it just really makes it look a little bit too messy for me. And so, you know, that's just something to think about is, you know, how much do you really want to have on there? Because you never have to stamp. I'm trying to think, this one is so light, I'm kind of trying to think maybe I want to stamp on top of that, but I'm going to do it. Nah, it's okay. It's a little so-so. No, I don't want, I want to put some there. I don't want this much there. So what I'm going to do is grab a piece of paper, if I have a piece of paper. You know, when you clean up, it just makes things worse. Okay, so I only want to do part of that. So I'm going to just stamp part of it, but also there's still ink on there. So I'm just going to cover up part of this and then go in and do it. Yeah, that's much better. I'm going to do the same thing again because I want some over here. Oh, I stamped that side, so this is what I need to cover up. Yeah, see, that's much better than doing this much in that tiny, tiny area. And then I want some here on the edge. Yeah, and I think that that is full. So there we go. That is how you can make your own designer tissue paper. And you can use it for backgrounds, for collage. You can use it for, you know, on a tag. And sometimes you don't even need to just have it as a background. You may just like it the way it is and, you know, put it on a tag and put the word musical or something. Well, not on that one, but, you know, put it on there. The other thing I forgot to tell you that I wanted to tell you, when you're stamping on tissue paper, it does go through a lot of the times. These stamps were not there before. They went through the tissue and onto my backer. So don't stamp it on your table or anything, or on anything that's good. You know, make sure that you have something behind it when you stamp it. The nice thing about it is that because it goes through, it kind of shows up on both sides. So you have a lighter side, which sometimes you just want something lighter, or you have a darker side. And some things, like this one, because some of them may be frontwards and some of them may be backwards, but you know, puzzle pieces aren't frontwards or backwards, so you know, you could use either side. So there we go. There's our designer shoe paper, and there is our designer tissue paper. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that if you try this, you have fun, because that's what it's all about. Thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate you, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.